She walked off. Oh, no, she walked in.
You had to jinx it.
Oh,
there it starts.
What a good kitty.
She's
Don't
lovely.
listen to Sam. He's never met you. He doesn't even know. He doesn't even like animals.
Whoa. Let's not, slander here, shall we? Hello and welcome to Book Retorts. I'm Sam.
I'm Danielle.
And this is the podcast about sharing your weird media finds with your friends who don't know what you're talking about.
But I do know what you're talking about.
Well, let's find out how much you do know, Danielle. What are we doing this week?
We're doing Endymion. I remember the title.
Hey, you got the name right. Yeah,
Yay!
Good job.
I'm a winner.
It's the 1996 Dan Simmons novel, Endymion, which is the third in the Hyperion Cantos series.
Yeah, it's both a city and a person.
Yes, and a poem.
And
most
a poem,
importantly.
unfortunately.
I mean, it's a lot of things, a mythological figure, etc., etc. But this is part 5, Danielle, our penultimate part. I hope you're excited for our final part next week.
I can't believe the story's
Next
almost
time.
over since nothing has happened.
Danielle, the story's almost half over, let's be clear.
But if this is penultimate, it's more than half?
Penultimate of this book, Danielle.
Oh. That's what I was talking about.
Yeah, but do you think the story ends with this book?
No,
oh, no.
I don't.
Yeah.
Does the next one still follow Endymion, or is it like a totally different thing?
Well, let me tell you the name of the next book, Danielle. It's called The Rise of Endymion.
So probably.
Yeah.
He gets to be more popular. He's kind of dumb.
He's kind of the worst, honestly.
All right. Well, Endymion, everybody.
Yeah, well, this is part 5, Danielle. So you should catch up to speed. What happened in the previous part?
Great question, Sam. Nothing happened.
Not inaccurate.
Let's see. Oh, the de Soya found a clue of where they were. That was that part, right?
Yes.
Sweet. Okay.
The very end of the last part, yes.
Yeah, well, that was the only thing that actually happened in that entire story.
Kinda, yeah.
So they were floating around. Was when the part where that was like on the dock or whatever, where you thought maybe Endymion died, was that the end of the fourth part or the third part, or was that in the fourth part?
That's all part 4. Yeah.
Okay. So that's the problem, is I don't know where anything starts or ends.
Because it doesn't really matter, and everything is not synced up in time, and I'll get to that in this part too, but it jumps backwards and forwards through time. It's not jumping between 2 stories contemporaneously. It's oh, this happened 6 months in the future. Let's go back.
Yes. So they're floating around in the ocean on a raft.
So, whoa. You gotta go back a little bit, because remember, they started out building the raft.
Sure. Well, that was part 4.
Yeah.
Oh, well, they built a raft because they didn't have their flying bicycles in the...
I was going to say, do you remember the fly cycles?
Yeah. In the ship that they crashed, and I can't believe that was part 4. That's shocking to me.
Yeah, more happened than you thought.
Yeah, they don't have fly cycles in the ship, so he let us know that just in case we were curious if maybe there were some flying bicycles in the ship. They were not.
They were taken earlier, so they had them, but they're not there anymore.
And I think the Shrike showed up for 2 seconds.
We never actually saw it, but yeah, the Shrike showed up while Aenea and Raul were away.
Popped into the ship, popped out of the ship for no reason whatsoever.
Yep.
Or maybe there was reason. We'll find out.
Mm.
And they build a raft because they can't find the raft, even though there was supposed to be one on the ship. There was not.
Also, that was taken by the consul, and he left on an Ouster river or something.
Sure, that. And they build the raft. They float around a lot. Hope for the best. Maybe go through a portal.
Remember, there's a storm.
Yeah, they say stupid things into the rain.
Yeah, remember what they say? Come on, take a guess.
I don't recall.
Channel your inner cowboy, Danielle.
Yeehaw.
Yeah, yeehaw.
They yell yeehaw into the storm. I didn't realize that Bettik was on their actual raft, so that was fun. Too. Doing really good with the names. And
amazing,
to me.
frankly.
I know.
This is shocking, honestly.
And they're floating around in a raft. Literally nothing happens until they see a dock.
Yeah, they have a conversation. They basically summarize some of the philosophy and poetry from the first 2 books because, oh man, this book just loves telling you about things.
Yeah.
That aren't necessary.
And they're telling you stuff for the whole book until he sees the dock. And it's like an oil platform. It's a giant platform. Right. And there's like tourists on it and maybe the war people. They were worried about the soldiers.
Pax?
Yeah, Pax. And he decides to go. Why does he go check it out?
So the raft is going to float right by the platform to get to the next Farcaster portal. And they're just heading in the right direction. The current just takes them to the Farcaster portal, so it's fine. And so they're worried about being spotted and captured. So his plan is to sneak aboard, set some explosive charges to act as a distraction so that the raft can sneak by and get to the portal, and et cetera, et cetera.
Right. We don't really see a whole lot of that except that he gets, he runs into some
immediately
Pax.
caught.
Yeah. And then it cuts ahead 6 months and we're following de Soya and he's
3 months,
like,
I think.
Okay, I thought it was 6
Time
months.
is important to this book, Danielle. I
thought it was 6 months.
No, I'll be honest. Like, I don't blame you because I was yelling because I'm annoyed at the book for making time, and time travel is an important thing, but then being very loosey-goosey with the whole timeline. It's like, you try to make time important, but you gotta give us like concrete reference points here.
Okay, well, several months later, we get a flash to de Soya finding out that there was a guy there with the hawking mat, and he realizes
you remember him touring 8 other planets in that whole sequence?
Yeah, he goes through like a million other planets, and he doesn't get anything, and he like leaves like traps behind so that he'll know if they show up, but then it doesn't really matter because he's going to find out months later because the communication systems don't work quickly. They're not like instant communication. So it really doesn't matter if somebody's there or not, because by the time he'd get there, they wouldn't be there anymore. And that's basically what's happened with this.
It is shockingly little that happens.
And then he finds out that supposedly Endymion died, which obviously the book is called Endymion. He didn't die. And we know at the beginning of the book that he's
book.
Yeah, he's writing the book. He's in a box.
So yeah, that's pretty much it.
That was it. Yeah.
Yeah. Not amazingly little plot.
Yeah, but I remembered it.
You did. Well done, you.
Yay.
I am increasingly frustrated with this book, and you'll see why in this section.
Perfect. So Endymion's alive.
We open by jumping back in time to when Raul was just nabbed by the Pax on the platform.
Yes. Raul's Endymion, everybody, in case you decided to start in section 5 of Endymion.
If this was your choice, then that's on you. I am not responsible.
Hope that summary made sense.
It did not. It didn't make sense to people who listened to the last episode even. So he talks his way into like telling them that he's like a tourist or whatever. So they take him to the mess hall. It's like, okay, rejoin your tourist group. You know, there should be a curfew. And he ambles over to the coffee urn and pours up a cup of coffee, trying to like act casual.
Nothing to see here, buddies. Nothing to see.
Yeah, and he's like thinking like, how am I get out of this? And after about 30 seconds of talking to some of the other tourists, they're like, you don't belong here. Like, he's terrible at this. So they're like, we're going to go find the lieutenant. He's like, oh, you're going to find the lieutenant? No, you stay here. I'm going to go find the lieutenant.
What? How does that make sense?
I don't know. It doesn't. So he like wanders off to like approaches like the captain and is like, hey, I want to talk to you. And as soon as he like tries to like reach out to shake his hand, one of the fishermen yells, hey, arrest that guy. And the captain's like, okay. And they slap handcuffs on him.
That doesn't make any sense.
Well, part of this doesn't make any sense because that's not clear. Did I lose you?
No, I'm just trying to figure out the actual writing of that whole scenario.
I mean, to be fair, I condensed like 5 pages into that.
I just don't understand why he would be like, no, I'm going to go talk to the people who could potentially arrest me. And then the people who could potentially arrest him immediately are like, oh, I'm supposed to arrest you? Okay.
Well, it's basically like he's trying to bluff, essentially, that like this guy's calling him and saying, hey, you don't look like you belong with us. Like, what are you accusing me of? I'm going to go talk to the captain. He's like trying to do that kind of thing. It does not work. The captain's like, all right, I'll believe you, and just cuffs him, and they take him outside. And Raul takes a moment to reflect on how much he sucks at subterfuge.
Yeah, he's really bad at it.
Yeah, no, not good. I don't know why he's our hero.
He's bad at everything, as far as I can tell.
I mean, he's both bad at everything and also like Mary Sued in a way. Like, we'll get to that, where he's like too good.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so they take him out to the platform outside, and he's like, all right, what am I going to do now? And he decides to fight his way out. So he clubs a man with his cuffed hands, and they get into a scrape, and in the scrape he shoves the lieutenant over the edge of the platform, and so he's gone.
Does he get eaten by a shark?
We'll get to that.
Excellent. That's what I was waiting for.
So he runs across the mess hall, back into the mess hall, and he leaps towards a window to smash through it. And while jumping, there's this big paragraph where he's like, hey, if that window is anything other than regular glass, like Perspex or smart glass, I'm just going to bounce right off it. Then they're going to capture me. And he goes the whole thing.
Which would be pretty funny.
Yeah. And I'm like, that'd be very funny. If he just bounced on the guy, I'm like, great. And he even says, hey, this is a platform in the middle of the open ocean. It would make sense for them to use some kind of reinforced or specialty unbreakable glass here on this storm-tossed seas.
And it's not. But it's just regular glass.
Just regular glass.
That is
no
so
problem.
dumb.
I don't know why we spent an entire paragraph on this little fantasy about it being not regular glass, but just regular glass. It doesn't matter.
It would have been much funnier if he had bounced off of it.
That's the annoying thing, because here's this really cool scenario that could have a really cool problem for our heroes to solve. The next episode to solve the problem. Problem's just doesn't exist for them. There's no problem. It's they're not overcoming any obstacles. They're not doing anything as scary. They're just here's a problem that could exist, but it doesn't, It's like the fly cycles in reverse. Here's a solution that could exist, but it doesn't. And I was very annoyed at that paragraph for wasting my time.
You're like, that was 30 seconds of my life I want back.
It was this whole thing. You're why am I just have a smash through the window? Fine. I've seen action movies. I mean, in real life, he'd probably bounce off the glass anyway or die from shards, but fine. Action movie rules apply. Whatever. So he rushes across the roof of some other part of the platform as he finds himself in when he jumps through the window. And the guards are shooting at him and missing him, of course, because, stormtrooper aim kind of stuff.
Of course. They're not the main character.
No. And he gets off the roof, and the guards try to follow him, but the roof collapses under them because it was weakened by all their shooting at the roof where he was hiding.
I don't know how that works. Are those laser guns? Are they blowing up stuff?
No, they're flechette weapons. They're shooting metal pieces and
But somehow
that.
That's destroyed the roof enough that it collapses?
It's put a bunch of holes in it. They were blasting it with automatic fire.
Okay, sure. Whatever.
I'm just saying. I to be fair, I skipped 3 pages of him crouching on the roof, thinking about how he's going to get off the roof and how the shit had been missing. So,
So they shot at him a lot, is what you're saying.
Yes, exactly. So he makes it back to the hockey mat and he takes off. He's in the clear, off the platform, home sweet home. But wait, Danielle, what's that sound?
The Shrike.
No. He hears the sound of the lieutenant he tossed overboard, struggling in the water, fending off rainbow sharks that are circling him.
Yay, sharks. Are rainbow sharks real?
I don't know. I'm not a marine biologist.
I was wondering if he made them up or if they're a real thing.
I think it's 8% made up here, 10%. I mean, there might be actual rainbow sharks, but they're probably not these rainbow sharks, would be my guess.
You just said 80 and 10.
We're not going to get into this. This is not important.
I was just figuring out my impossibility math.
The other 10% is that neither. He thought they were real, but they weren't.
That's possible. He'd heard about them, so he put them in there.
Yeah, exactly.
But they didn't have Google yet, so he couldn't verify.
What a lost humanity. So Raul spends 2 pages deciding whether or not to rescue the man and decides to rescue him. So his plan is to go and save him, pick him up, swing back towards the platform, and drop him off before escaping again.
So was his overall plan not to harm anybody, just to create a distraction?
Yes.
Okay.
So this is what I'm talking about with Raul is at once the worst. He's an idiot, kind of. He's kind of dumb and doesn't really have any skills, but he's also morally impeccable. Mm-hmm. Everything he does is perfect. He's I'm going to save this man, even though I really shouldn't. And he tried to kill me, and I'm risking my life and the life of my friend by dropping it back off of this platform for no reason, really.
So you wouldn't have done that? Is that what you're telling me?
I'm saying I probably would not try to, rescue the man who tried to kill me from the sharks when I had a limited window to escape before being gunned down by people on that platform.
So logically, he shouldn't have done it, but he decided to.
Right. And again, I'm proven correct here in just a moment.
Yeah, because he dies.
Yeah, so Raul, still in cuffs, pulls the guy out of the water and then turns back towards the platform. And as he turns to check on the guy who pulled out of the water, he's stabbed. Immediately stabbed by the guy. Just stabs him right in the chest.
That's pretty hardcore. Thanks for saving me. I'm going to stab you now. Right.
And also, nothing we know about the Pax would preclude that from happening. It's obvious they would have, they're zealots and, a hardcore military thing. They're not oh, okay, great. You're free to go now. We're no longer going to pursue you for our religious zealotry reasons.
But do they know that it's him? They just think it's a guy that's like,
yeah, they don't care. They don't care. That's the whole, like, nothing we've seen has shown the Pax anything other than like a organization that is ruthless, dictatorial, and so his thoughts to save this man and that it would somehow work out well for him are dumb.
It's okay. He dies.
He gets stabbed, and while he's being stabbed, the knife hits the button on the explosive detonator and detonates all the explosives on the platform. So again, it's contrived because he didn't even blow them up. Like, he set the explosives specifically not to hurt anybody, but even that is too far for the book to, like, he can't even do destruction of property. We have to make sure someone else causes that, so he's unblemished. He is innocent as the driven snow.
Okay.
Which is weird, because he tries to be like this Han Solo type, where he's like this vagabond, you know, he's like, I'm not in this for the glory, or I'm in for the money kind of thing. But he doesn't have any of the, like, interesting moral complexity of Han Solo, which is saying a lot, because Han Solo was not very morally complex to begin with. Anyway, I'm so annoyed with the character of Raul because we spend the most time with him, and I think I like him the least of any of the characters in the book.
Maybe because you spend the most time with him.
That is, again, entirely possible.
We've talked about that, because my love of characters that are not the main character is notorious.
Absolutely. So they struggle a bit, and Raul is shoved off the hockey mat, and while floating in the water, he brings up his pistol to shoot the guy who is fleeing him back to the platform.
That he just saved from sharks.
I was going to say, that reminds you, he just was so gung ho about saying, like, I need to save this man, even though he tried to kill me, it's, you know, my duty. I saved him. Oh, he turned on me. Now I get to shoot him. Now it's okay for me to kill him. Like, what? This is why the whole thing doesn't make any sense to me. Like, either you're morally opposed to killing the man, or, like, you're fine with leaving him, but now you're actively trying to kill him? It's somehow better than letting nature do its thing? Like, oh...
You tell him, Sam.
This has made no sense to me. But luckily, again, Raul is saved from shooting the man because the soldiers on the platform shoot him instead. By mistake.
Friendly fire.
Yeah, exactly. So Raul is left unblemished. His hands are clean, thankfully, thanks to plot contrivances.
I mean, would you rather get eaten by a shark or get shot?
Honestly, probably shot, but, you know, maybe the lieutenant would have been rescued. We don't know.
That's true.
Also, he's got the cruciform on him, so he could probably be, like, resurrected.
I mean,
still painful.
Guaranteed, right? It doesn't matter how you die.
As long as there's enough, like, body mass left for someone to resurrect you, yeah.
How much body mass is required?
I don't know.
Like,
no.
If you're ripped apart by sharks, are you dead?
Well, so they get into this later, but there are ways that they can basically reattach any, like, small piece of the cruciform to another mass of, like, cloned cells or whatever to start the process over again.
Because the cruciform, like, keeps your DNA in its side of it?
Yes. Yep.
Interesting.
Or whatever. All you need is a little piece of it and you're good to go.
How come the guy on the Tesla tree didn't, like, burn to death?
What do you mean?
Remember the guy who was tied to the Tesla tree?
Yeah. He did die. I don't know what you're talking about.
But he didn't, like, he kept getting resurrected over and over again every time he was electrocuted.
I guess his body didn't turn to ash. I guess there was enough mass left over for it to keep working. I don't know.
How come it didn't, like, enough electricity you think it would, like, burn him?
Yeah, but burn him doesn't, like, make matter disappear.
No, but you think it'd be enough to, like, he'd be dead. Like, ashy dead at some point. That was a lot of electricity.
Nope, apparently not.
Sorry. That was a side tangent of ways to destroy the
Yeah, way back to
starfish.
Part 1 of this whole saga. So, Raul is now stuck floating aimlessly in the ocean as the sharks circle.
Uh-oh. Will our hero make it out alive?
Heroes, in quotation marks. He acknowledges his only hope is to swim back to the platform, so instead he swims back out to open ocean, bleeding profusely.
What? Why? He'd rather be taken by sharks than the people on the
pretty
platform?
Much.
Okay, sure.
Because the plot is telling him that if he goes this way, he'll probably be better than the platform.
He'll be
somehow
picked up and put in a box. That doesn't happen yet, though.
Oh, maybe it does, Danielle. Maybe he starts writing the book now.
Maybe, but that's not far enough into the book. Maybe in the next section.
We don't know. There could be time shenanigans. Maybe he's been in the box for like a million years.
Absolutely. Entirely possible.
So still manacled, Raul tries to both swim and fend off the sharks, who are stupid, in his words, and only attack him one at a time, like, you know, a kung fu movie.
That's not how that would work. Almost certainly. I don't know how sharks work, but I'm pretty sure they'll just group kill him.
Yeah, no. So he's
like punching them in the nose?
He's like kicking them and punching. Yeah, exactly right. Eventually, he's just reduced to floating, no longer swimming. He's out of energy. He's bleeding. He's dying.
And the sharks haven't eaten yet.
Yep. And he starts to contemplate theology for several pages.
I mean, wouldn't you if you were floating there and sharks were circling?
Well, he's like wondering about a cosmic god who allowed his creatures to torture each other like this, quote unquote. And I will spare you the pages of this seemingly irrelevant pondering.
I appreciate that.
Do you? Are you okay? You're distracted.
No, I'm not distracted. There's just not a whole lot going on.
What do you mean? He found the man and is fighting up sharks.
I'm waiting to see what happens. Is probably more accurate.
Because
I know he gets out of this, so I'm like, how does he get out of it?
Well, Raul decides to actually start shooting the sharks with his pistol instead of just kicking them.
Wait, he had a pistol the entire time?
Yeah.
Now I'm mad.
This is my point. What is with this?
That doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't. He's like, I have this pistol this whole time, but instead of shooting the bloodthirsty sharks, I'm going to, kick them and hope that's good enough.
Does it run out of bullets at any point?
I mean, eventually it would, I assume, but I don't know how many sharks there are to those bullets.
That's crazy.
He takes a shot, he misses, and then he feels something around his neck.
Is it an
Guess
octopus?
what?
Kraken.
No, not a kraken, not an octopus. It's better than that, Danielle.
It's a whale.
No. It's Aenea. She had swum out to grab him.
What? No.
Yep.
That's even dumber.
So it's Aenea. She swum out. She grabs him around the neck and is like, float on your back. I'll haul you back towards the raft.
She's like, get away, sharks.
Keep the sharks away by shooting at them. And then he sees, come over the next swell is A. Bettik, also swimming, out towards them with a machete in his teeth. He's holding a machete in his mouth.
I believe that.
Yeah, A. Bettik's a badass. The rest of this is nonsense.
A. Bettik can do whatever he wants, and I believe it's a real thing. The other two are questionable.
I know. So Raul passes out and drops the pistol, so
That's
no
helpful.
help keeping the sharks away.
As usual, Aenea's the real hero.
And A. Bettik's the real hero. I mean, Aenea is good, but A. Bettik's the only competent adult in the group. So Aenea and A. Bettik haul Raul back onto the raft, and instead of darting to the Farcaster, what had happened was they had left behind a anchor on the raft to slow it down so it wouldn't get dragged into the Farcaster prematurely, so they could swim out and grab Raul and bring him back and look and wait for him to come by, I guess.
Well, he created a distraction, so he did his job.
Yeah, they did, and they managed to wait for him to magically appear somehow, and everything worked out great.
So they were just floating far enough away from the dock area that nobody saw them?
I think also at one point we learned that A. Bettik shot out their radar dish during the confusion with a well-placed shot from one of the sniper rifles.
Sure,
why not? Because even though A. Bettik can't attack people, he can attack radar dishes,
that people
I guess.
have made.
Yes, right.
Can he attack other androids?
I don't know. It never comes up that I've known so far.
That's unfortunate.
So they quickly try to stabilize Raul. Okay, yes, Daniel, they're not people.
I'm just seeing where the limitations of death are.
The limit is human beings. So they drag Raul onto the raft. He's dying. They stabilize him with a med kit, but it's grim news. They've got him stable, but he's going to die soon unless they can get him more sophisticated medical help. What?
He'll be fine.
Of course he will, Danielle, but how is the question?
They'll put a cruciform on him.
Oh, he would love that. So Aenea then doses him with Ultramorph to knock him out. Remember Ultramorphine? It's back.
It is. I do remember it. It's been a frequent traveler in our books.
30 hours later, Raul wakes up. They're in a concrete canal on the planet of Hebron. Do you remember Hebron?
No.
It's one of the planets Saul Weintraub went to. It's like the Jewish kibbutz planet.
Oh, kinda. Yeah.
So.
That's really pulling from my memory of 18,000 episodes ago.
Yeah.
Quite literally, probably 18 Hyperion episodes ago.
Yeah, something like that. Probably more like 14, but close enough.
Yeah.
14, 15, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So the canal is actually an elevated aqueduct, and otherwise there's nothing but desert for miles and no signs of any life.
Except for them.
So Hebron had been conquered by the Ousters some 3 years previously, and that'll become important later, maybe? I don't know.
Did people live on Hebron?
Yeah.
Do they live there now?
No.
Just because the Ousters took it over, so they all left?
Well, we'll get to this. This is all a mystery.
You never know with him. He may or may not tell us.
We'll see. So now Raul realized that Hebron originally didn't connect to the River Tethys at all. In fact, there'd only been one Farcaster on the whole planet in the main city, and that's it. They had been purposely sort of isolationist.
So it's been moved or something happened.
So somehow there is now the giant Farcaster portal for the Retethus there. And Nia's all, well, I guess the book you read about this was wrong because clearly we're here, so I guess it was part of the Retethus. And Raul is like, all right, sure, whatever. So they float along until they reach New Jerusalem. It's abandoned. But while the Ousters took over 3 years ago, it appears to be freshly abandoned. Like people left not too long ago, like a matter of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
But there's no sign of violence or struggle.
It's mysterious.
Although Aenea still feels that something terrible happened here.
She should know. She's psychic-y, sort of.
Psychic-y, yeah, that's a good word for it.
She's got skills. Architecture skills.
Maybe. We don't know she has any architecture skills. She wants to learn architecture. She has no architecture skills yet.
It would be great if she was really terrible at architecture.
I mean, I kind of hope that is the case, because yes.
Has no drawing or math skills.
4 plus 4 is 12. Perfect. Good job, Aenea. So they manage to lug Raul to a hospital, and they slide him into an autosurgeon chamber and let the thing loose on him. And it takes 8 surgeries to clear him of some kind of like fungal infection he picked up from the water.
Sure.
Like sent to his bones. And it also takes like some more time for Raul to kick the ultramorphine habit he developed from being dosed by Aenea.
That was fast.
Yep. Nope. Again, this book just glosses over things so quickly. It's all very passive.
You're like, oh, and by the way, the main character had an ultramorphine habit, but it's fine. It's fixed.
Yeah. Like, I'll get into this more later for how this, like, book tells the story first and then goes back and tells the rest of the story again. Like, it gives you a summary at the beginning of every chapter. It's like, we spent 13 days recovering in that hospital before we managed to leave. The first day, I did this. And, like, it does, like, that whole thing. So while recovering, he tells Aenea about the conversation he had with Martin, about his task was to save and protect her and take her back to Old Earth, return Old Earth to its proper place, talk to the Ousters, dismantle the Pax, and then keep the Shrike from destroying her or humanity.
Is that all?
Yeah, that's what Aenea says.
How are they going to move the planet?
Danielle, please.
Questions. As I often do with planet moving.
There are questions about all of this. How's he going to do any of that? How's he going to protect Aenea when he's shown to be incompetent at that thus far?
Yeah, but I don't care about the rest of it. Well, maybe the Shrike stuff, except for the planet moving.
Oh, you care about the planet moving. Well, maybe they will attach rockets to it, or maybe they'll use the Farcaster black hole thing again.
But stick in a steering wheel and drive it.
just to drive a planet, all you gotta do is take a steering wheel, jam it into the ground anywhere, and boom, you've got yourself a drivable planet.
I have yet to see a sci-fi thing that we have read or seen that has dissuaded me of that notion.
That'd be amazing if it worked that way.
No, if we tried it, it was a lot like, listeners, has anybody stuck a steering wheel into Earth to see if it changes?
This sounds
direction?
like a sci-fi short story you and I would write about, like, okay, clearly this is the most important theme in science fiction is driving planets. So let's write a story about how, like, they invented a steering wheel that can just drive planets if you jam into the ground, and that's just going to be the whole plot of the story.
I'm just saying, I doubt anybody's tried, so let's do it and see what happens.
All right, let us know how that goes. Someone conduct that experiment, please. Don't drive us into the sun if it does work, though, please.
Yeah, that'd be bad.
So Aenea is largely sort of unfazed by all of this, and she's like, okay, well, that's a lot. Good luck. Meanwhile, A. Bettik has been investigating Hebron while this has been going on, trying to find, like, what had happened to the people, but he finds nothing. No, like, recordings, no data log. It just seems like people suddenly disappeared.
He's investigating how? Wandering around?
Yeah, basically, just, like, they found, like, a ground car, and he's, like, driving around to the various homes and places and trying to see what he can find.
Nobody left behind a note? Like, dear future people, this is what happened.
Nothing at all. That's the whole point. It's all just suddenly gone, Danielle. Mystery.
Mysterious.
They guess that the Pax evacuated the planet after the Ousters broke through the quote-unquote Great Wall, which is the defensive perimeter the Pax has set up of, like, ships around their territory.
But the Ousters did that 3 years ago, and they think everybody left a few weeks ago.
Well, I know, so it doesn't make any sense to me either.
Does it get explained later?
Maybe. I don't know.
You do know. You're reading the book.
I don't know, Danielle, because if it does, I haven't found a part where it's been explained yet.
Okay. I don't like that solution. That's dumb. It immediately contradicts the thing that they just said.
I don't think it's the correct solution either. I think it's a red herring.
Okay, perfect.
But it's also a dumb red herring to make if you're like, 2 weeks ago is not the same thing as 3 years ago.
Yeah.
So after 2 weeks of recuperating in the hospital, the power starts to fail, and Aenea and Raul have a long, so long discussion about the natural course of how despotic empires fall.
I'm sure. Why not? That sounds like something you should talk about in your hospital bed.
Yeah, and Nia's all like, it's all about entropy. Eventually, if we wanted to, we could camp out for a few millennia and the Pax would eventually crumble on its own just due to entropy. But actually that won't work because the cruciforms change the entropy equation. Because now that people are functionally immortal, there are no ways for ideas to change. There's no way for a revolution to happen. There's no way for any of that stuff to go on. So that has changed it. Now the Pax is effectively a immortal despotic regime.
That sounds terrifying.
Right? So that's a problem.
Just a small one, though. It'll be fine.
And it's also why Hebron, for instance, has great medical facilities, because as a Jewish planet, they didn't use the cruciforms. So they actually put time and effort into medical science as opposed to let the cruciform resurrect you. You'll be fine.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And Nia also says that she doesn't actually want to topple the Pax. That's really up to Raul. That's his job, not hers. She's got other things she has to do.
I'd become an architect.
Pretty much.
She's got one thing on her checklist.
And that is build a house.
Raul can suck it.
I mean, they really seem to be not working together as a team. They just have to be traveling together on different paths. And that might be interesting in a story where I understood where things were going on. If that was sort of this whole they have different destinies, but they're brought together now for this time just to travel together and maybe influence. But none of that's sort of really explored.
That's a shame. Mr. Simmons, what are you doing?
He really likes to show this book as a venue to discuss all his peculiar interests, is what I believe. Which are all these weird philosophies and art history and things like that and poetry.
Well, he's got varied interests.
Sure. Good for him. I'm not sure it makes for a thrilling sci-fi adventure, though.
This part's kind of interesting. Not that because you're skipping over the huge amounts of pages of boring stuff, but the actual plot is at least happening.
And that's the most frustrating part. There's some interesting plot elements here, like this whole idea of an infinite despotic regime. That's pretty cool. I like that. I wish it was more central and not resigned to brief expositional dump conversations between the characters while they're waiting for something else to happen. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know. That'd be my note to the editor.
Yeah, it seems like he doesn't talk about that a whole lot. That's the big bad guy in the background, sort of, that's following them or, the potential threat to them. And it doesn't seem like it comes up super frequently.
Not really. No.
Which is interesting because, like you said, it's such a big topic. And I feel like if this was Hyperion, it would have come up more. The writing style was different. Yeah,
Hyperion is a lot more focused on, the plot. This is a lot more focused on the philosophy.
Mm-hmm. Just a choice, I suppose.
Just a choice. Anyway, so they decide that they have to leave now since the power is failing. They load Raul into a truck bed, go looking for the Farcaster portal. But Raul insists they find a gun shop first so he can restock his arsenal.
In case he needs to shoot at sharks again.
So they spend a few pages looking, but fortunately for us, they don't find a gun shop, so we're spared him, doing another load-up scene. They get back to the raft, and Raul is all, hey, instead of taking the raft, why don't we take one of those nice fancy EMVs that are here and, just laying around on this abandoned planet. And Aenea says that she and Bettik voted to keep with the raft because it can't run out of power.
Right.
It will float, unlike an EMV, which if it runs out of power will crash, apparently. And they can't just run a regular boat. They have to actually use an EMV. I guess normal boats don't exist in the hegemony world.
There's not a little, fishing boat anywhere.
Nope. The only thing they have are are flying cars. No actual boats exist anywhere in the hegemony.
Even though there's water.
Yep.
Sure.
No sense. Also, EMVs don't work on some planets like Hyperion, and the raft is small enough to evade most radar, so they decided to stick with the raft.
Sure, why not?
I still think boats should exist, but that's, me.
Well, they were supposed to be there, but for some reason they're not, Sam. Just
on the... There's supposed to be boats there, but they're all missing because they took them all downriver to escape the Ousters or something. I don't know.
There's a 6-page history of why there's not boats.
Raul is very angry about this. He is arguing, what? I think we should take it to EMV. I'm sick of this uncomfortable raft. Uncharacteristically angry and petulant.
Don't you hate when characters have sudden mood shifts and you're like, what is going on?
And he is just so upset, and he says, quote, "Who made this a democracy? I demanded. I admit that I had images of spanking this kid." And I'm like, no,
gross.
Bad Simmons. Bad Simmons.
And also, is he in charge? Is Endymion in charge?
No, apparently not. No one's in charge.
I know it's in charge, but why would he think that it would ever be him making the decisions.
I think he thinks of himself as like the leader and like his job is to rescue her and be the big hero, but he actually has no actual power or skill or authority, and they're saving his butt more than he saves theirs.
And she's much smarter than he is.
Apparently so, yeah. So like, I don't know if there's like an ego thing where he's like, I should be the one in charge, I'm the adult or whatever, and apparently that's not the case.
Oh, crazy.
So they argue about it for a few more pages before Raul gives in. They float downstream 5 kilometers to the next portal, but when they go through it, they find themselves in a freezing, cold, utter blackness. Just complete blackness, absolutely cold.
They went through the portal?
Yep. They turn on their lamps to reveal they're in an ice cave with no apparent way out.
Wow, that's alarming. Can they go back through the portal?
Nope, they can't go back through. They've tried that before. It never works.
Just a one-way portal.
Yeah.
The end.
The end. They die in the ice cave. Book over. No, we cut back to Mare Infinitus. Weeks in the future? Unclear. It's after de Soya's investigation. So if my math is correct, de Soya's investigation is taking place 3 months in the future. We've now traveled 2 weeks in the future. So this is still like 11 weeks in the future? I don't know. The timeline is screwy, Danielle, and I hate it.
Okay.
It's like written like it's contemporaneous, like it's switching between 2 scenes, but they're not contemporaneous in time.
Yeah, one's in the future and one's not.
So de Soya is wielding his papal disc key as a cudgel to complete this investigation, like allocating resources, demanding this and that, sidelining the local authorities, all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
He and his team essentially recreate the events by pretty much guessing at the correct series
how
of
would you
things that
know?
happened.
That was such a weird string of events. And then he saved the man from the sharks.
That's literally what he says. Like, de Soya is like, has this hunch. He's like, I found both their blood on the
How would you be able to distinguish between the blood? So there's like a scanner?
DNA. Yeah.
Okay.
DNA. They can tell. That I find is fine. You can scan DNA and say there's 2 types of blood from 2 different people on here.
Sure.
Whatever. But he's like, from that I conclude that since they saw the lieutenant go overboard, it's likely that he went to save him. Like our mysterious person went to pick up the lieutenant that went down overboard, and he's merciful if stupid. And I'm like, yes, that's exactly correct. How would you know this?
Like, why would you ever think that's the case? There's no correlation between those two. You wouldn't think that's what happened.
Yeah, absolutely not. He's like, maybe there's some other thing that could have happened where he got the other guy's blood on the raft. Or maybe the blood was already on them or something. Who knows?
Or got on there before he fell over the thing.
Yeah, he had blood on him before he went over, and then when he was shredded, some of the other blood was left behind. I don't know. Anyway, de Soya immediately hits on the correct answers because his hunches are like apparently very good.
Yeah, apparently.
It's like he's not a poacher, it was the guy I'm looking for, and this is what happened. So de Soya orders them to search the ocean looking for the body of the lieutenant so they can resurrect him, even if they only find a piece of him. He clears out all the poachers in a 1,000-mile radius.
What if they find a piece of the shark and then they put it on there and was he turned into a shark man?
No. I would love that, Danielle. All your ideas are really good, but none of them are even remotely going to happen in this book.
All my ideas are really good. Thank you. I'm going to write another version of Hyperion using all of my ideas. It can't be any more chaotic than the actual story.
I think it could.
It was going to make just as much sense.
I didn't say it wouldn't, but I think you could generate more chaos.
I would also make the cruciform somehow related to starfish.
That's just for your own esoteric reasons.
That's because in my head, the cruciforms look like starfish.
Sure, why not?
Have they been described as otherwise?
Yes, they're cruciforms.
But they're squishy.
They look like fungally, not...
What does fungally look like, Sam?
You ever seen like a mushroom?
Sure. Yeah, yes. Have I seen a mushroom? Yes.
Good. You ever seen like those like orange, like wavy funguses, like licheny that grow on walls and caves and stuff?
Sure.
Yeah, more like that.
Are you sure it doesn't have the texture of a starfish?
I mean, I haven't touched it, so I don't know for sure.
But they're shaped like crosses, right?
Yes.
So they're kind of like starfish adjacent.
In that they have points on them, I suppose. But by that logic, so are my hands. They're starfish adjacent.
I mean, they kind of are.
A ninja star is starfish adjacent.
Yes. There are many things in life that are starfish adjacent.
A stick has 2 points. It's starfish adjacent.
Sort of. I mean, lions versus starfish. I feel like you have to have some kind of crossover or like multiple points.
Okay.
It's a lion,
the Danielle
Sam.
botanist description. This is why I'm glad you're not in charge of our taxonomy, of categorization of species, because you'd be like, this is kind of starfish adjacent. We'll put in the starfish tree. It'd be like, the whole tree would be mostly starfish. Everything else would be like, we have 2 kingdoms, the starfish kingdom and the animalia kingdom.
And ninja stars.
Okay.
Non-animate.
Anyway, so de Soya orders the entire bottom of the ocean swept for clues, which is insane because... what?
Because it is.
Like,
you don't need a reason. It just is.
As I said, he clears out all the poachers in a 1,000-mile radius. He drugs them with truth tell and interrogates them and the corrupt Pax troops he arrested on the station.
Does he think that they're not going to tell him the truth?
I mean, why risk it, I guess? If you have a drug called truth tell, might as well use it, I suppose, right?
Sure. Why not?
Yeah. And he sends the local bishop to a monastery when they object to him, like, doing all this stuff. From the ocean sweeping, he hopes to recover enough of the cruciform of the lieutenant to resurrect him. But during the search, they also take fingerprints from the coffee mug Raul handled several months ago.
How did they know? How? Okay.
Yep.
How do they know he used it? And then secondly, was it like not washed or they didn't do anything with it for months?
Is
it all like a crime scene?
Nope. They call them latent fingerprints. It was washed, but they have enough technology they can still recover fingerprints from it.
Okay, I need to know what would okay, so he drank from a coffee mug. Let's even pretend that somebody actually noticed him drinking from a coffee mug.
Yeah,
well, like
that's
coffee mug is the coffee mug that guy drank from, that it's sitting on that counter still. But then for whatever reason it gets washed and it gets put with all the other coffee mugs.
Yeah.
And so now, how do they know which coffee mug belongs to him?
They don't. They scan them all looking for latent fingerprints.
But there's latent fingerprints on all of them.
Right. But there's only one fingerprint set that they can't identify to any of the other citizens who are on there at the time.
Weren't there like tourist people on there and other people?
Yeah, they're all Pax people, though. They're all registered.
So they've all like scanned all their fingerprints?
I'm assuming
who remembers that this guy drank coffee?
Again, I agree, Daniel. It's very dumb, but somehow de Soya just does everything correctly, too. He lucks into all the clues he needs.
Shenanigans. All right, carry on.
I was waiting for you to carry on about that one.
I'm mad about it.
They can't identify who the fingerprints belong to because there's no, like, universal data sphere they can connect to and query. So de Soya sends Gregorius back to Hyperion with the Archangel ship to see if they match any of the Hyperion records for anyone from Hyperion.
Mm-hmm. But they don't. Does he live on Hyperion?
Raul?
Yeah, did he live on Hyperion?
He grew up on Hyperion, yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
That's the beginning of the whole book was him on Hyperion.
You know what? That was a really long time ago, Sam. I don't know why you
There's a whole hunting thing where he's like takes a bunch of people duck hunting and then they kill his dog.
I just didn't remember it being on Hyperion.
Had the whole trial and then he goes meets Martin in Endymion. Like he goes to the city of Endymion on Hyperion to meet with Martin.
I just didn't realize Endymion was on Hyperion. I hadn't made that. Like I'm sure I knew that at one point, but I didn't remember that now.
No, Danielle.
I thought Endymion was a city somewhere else.
No, it's on Hyperion.
Okay, well. Now I guess it makes sense to go back to see if there are fingerprints from Hyperion.
That's why he was there to get Aenea from the Time Tombs, which are also on Hyperion.
Okay, like I knew he went to Hyperion to get her from the Time Tombs. I just didn't realize he also lived on Hyperion.
Remember, he took the hockey mat through the labyrinth on Hyperion to go get her.
Yeah, but I just assumed he went to Hyperion. Sam, it doesn't...
Did they go to the labyrinth?
Yeah, I don't know.
How'd he get there?
I didn't think that hard about it at the time, and I probably knew it when you were talking, and I just wasn't thinking about it later.
This is astonishing. My world is shocked that you thought that he was like grew up somewhere one time period and like the other planet is irrelevant.
I mean, well, yeah.
Amazing. I'm so glad you shared that.
Who cares where he grew up?
Oh, man.
It hasn't come into play at all after that initial scene of rescuing her from the Time Tombs. They haven't been back to Hyperion.
True. But the whole point is Hyperion is special and it has the city of Endymion on it, and he's named Endymion for the city.
And I'm sure you told me that, and I probably registered all that while you're talking about it.
You definitely knew that at some point.
Yeah, and then we left Hyperion, and my brain immediately was like, I don't care.
No information about Hyperion is needed ever again.
It isn't until this moment. We literally went 4 more episodes before it came up again.
I love that. That makes me so happy.
I don't feel bad about not remembering that at all.
I didn't say you should. I'm just delighted by this. I'm baffled and delighted.
I should just assume everything happens on Hyperion. But every time I say that, I'm like, oh, is it on Hyperion? You're like, no, it's on this other random planet.
And the one time you don't, it was. So what does that tell you?
It's not my fault. There's like 40 different planets and each one has a backstory, Sam. Who even cares?
That's Simmons' fault.
Doesn't matter at all that was all on Hyperion.
So good. So good.
I knew the time tomb stuff happened on Hyperion, obviously.
Obviously.
I just didn't realize he had grown up there. Okay, well, they're going to find his fingerprints then, I assume.
So the whole cruciform search is a bust. They don't find any part of the lieutenant, so that was all red herring.
Mm-hmm.
But while scouring the deep ocean, they do find the pistol Raul dropped, so that's convenient.
Okay, sure.
Soon Gregorius returns with a match for Raul's fingerprint from when he was arrested and after the trial, and he was supposedly executed and has a death certificate and everything, but we know that's not true.
That's super not true. I appreciate that Mr. Simmons actually, brought back all the Chekhov's gun, no pun intended, pieces that he usually drops and doesn't ever bring up again.
You mean
dropping the gun into the water, and which I didn't think about much of the time, and the shark bits, the cruciforms, all of that. Yeah. Good job.
It's
fairly linear storytelling for him.
I mean, is it? Because it's being told in reverse, essentially.
Yeah, but I didn't even think about them when they happened, and then they came back, so good job.
Yeah. Well, props where props are due.
And he got arrested, fingerprints came back. See? Good job.
Yeah, it all works out.
For once.
Yeah, and for once. That's what makes it remarkable, because there's so many other parts that did not work out. After all this, de Soya concludes they're pretty much done with Mare Infinitus and should move on.
That's true, though. Go find an ice cave, sir.
Well, basically, he decides that they shouldn't resume their essentially random search that the ship had chosen for them earlier, but instead should cut straight to going towards finding out where they think Aenea is going. They should try to come up with a theory of where Aenea is going and then go there, as opposed to just randomly look at all the planets.
That's probably a good idea. But can they just go through the portal? Will it put them in the same place?
They can't go through the portal. Only Aenea activate the portals, and the portals are dormant otherwise.
That's what I thought, but I wasn't sure. Thank you.
No, they can't. So he's like, instead of doing a random search, maybe we should actually try to reason this one out a little bit.
But there's no reason that Aenea is picking to go through random portals.
That's right. She's not picking where the destinations are. Right. Someone else's.
So that'll be hard.
But de Soya has a theory on where she's going.
Sure. To the architect. Just find an architect.
He doesn't know about the architect yet, Danielle.
Give him time. He'll think about it on his own somehow.
Probably. He'll have a hunch. I think she's looking for an architect. She wants to be an apprentice.
Have a dream.
Have a dream. That's entirely too possible for comfort. Back in the ice cave, there's definitely no escape.
Well, it's unfortunate for them.
Raul identifies this planet as Sol Draconi Septum, which is 1.7 G gravity, failed terraforming, and the worst part is the ice above them isn't water. It's the atmosphere of the planet. The planet's atmosphere is so cold that it has frozen over all of the atmosphere.
Bummer. How does he know that?
Because he knows about the planet, I guess.
He read about it in a book?
Or just from school? I don't know.
Okay, sure.
But here's the dumb part, and I'm going to digress for a moment here. They say that the atmosphere is mostly oxygen and carbon dioxide. Oxygen doesn't freeze until under negative 200 degrees Celsius.
Uh-huh.
And even carbon dioxide won't freeze until under negative 80 degrees Celsius. So if they're on a planet cold enough or high pressure enough that the atmosphere of carbon dioxide and oxygen is freezing, they're dead. They're just dead. They're dead. There's nothing they're just dead. There's not oh, we're under an ice cave. No, you're dead.
Lack of Google strikes again.
I don't know what's going on here. What Simmons, what nonsense Simmons thinks he's pulling. If he's oh, the ice caves are a temperate part, under maybe the moons of Saturn, Europa, where there could be liquid water underneath the ice.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't buy it. That's extreme.
Dear Mr. Simmons.
Anyway, it's nuts, and the terraforming failed. The ice is kilometers thick, and the only leftover life forms are humans and the Arctic wraiths, which are giant monsters that eat the humans.
Oh, fun.
To survive, because there's nothing else for them to eat. So I guess, what are the Arctic wraiths? Were they here before the people were? Did the people bring them here? I don't know what they are or why they exist.
Are there still people on this place at all?
Yeah, there's the leftover people. After the fall, everyone got trapped on their various planets. Some of them managed to survive.
Sure. In the very cold weather.
Yeah, in the frozen atmosphere where you're literally breathing ice. So they float around for a bit looking for an exit, and eventually Raul decides their only option is to have him swim.
In the freezing cold water?
Yeah, to swim under the wall of ice where the water runs under the wall. He's going to have to swim underneath there, plant explosives, and hope that the ice wall is thin enough that he can blow it open and they can escape downriver somewhere.
Is this the real ice or the atmosphere ice?
It's got to be atmosphere ice. It can't be
if
or
you
both?
Break
I don't know.
The atmosphere, what happens? Do you die?
Danielle, I'm not clear what any of this is.
It needs I need a science person to tell me.
Like I said, it's kilometers thick. So they're just trying to break open the atmosphere. Like they're in a pocket of air, breathable air, even though most of the atmosphere above them is all frozen.
Right. That's what I'm wondering. If you like break it open, what happens? Seems like a bad idea.
They're not going to break it open up to the surface. They're just going to like try to break through to another part of the cave or whatever.
Right. But eventually the point is to try and get out or to get to another portal, right?
Just get to another portal, but they can do that horizontally. They don't need to go up above the surface of the planet.
That's assuming depending on where the portal is.
Well, it's going to be downriver, and rivers don't flow uphill.
You assume.
So
there's no proof of that.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry, no proof of that, Danielle. Right,
not in Hyperion.
But that's his plan. He's going to try to blast open the ice wall. Hopefully it's thin enough that they can keep going downriver and they'll find the portal before they get trapped again or whatever.
Got it.
Raul then pauses to ask Aenea if she thinks there's a rhyme or reason to the order of these planets that they're going through. And Aenea's like, yes, absolutely. And that this dead end is a temptation for her because she hates the cold and the dark. And they're tempting her to use certain abilities she has, powers she hasn't earned.
Magic powers that she suddenly has?
Unclear. But despite that, she says, nothing she will ever learn could get them out of this, she's sure. So I'm not sure what the temptation is or what the point of this temptation is.
That doesn't make any sense. You either have a temptation or you don't.
Yep. So she's like, there's a temptation for me to use certain powers that I haven't earned yet. But also, whatever powers I could possibly learn wouldn't help me, so it doesn't matter anyway.
But what is the point?
What is the point, Danielle?
Don't know.
I'm so upset.
It'd be such a more interesting story if she was actually tempted to use the powers and then had to fight against it.
If this was her, like, fighting not to use these powers because she knew that taking the easy way out would set her on a path of, like, shortcutting morality or whatever, just taking the easy path and not earning things through hard work would mean that she wouldn't be able to use them responsibly, which I'm not sure I buy that, the idea that hard work makes you a better person, but at least it would be an interesting plot point. But no, it just doesn't matter. She has actually no real temptation.
He's a big tell not show kind of person.
This book is immensely tell not show.
Yeah,
it's way more than the other ones were more interesting, had like more like showing, but this is all, and I'll get to it, I mentioned this later, this is all very passive voice. It feels like reading a textbook at times. So Bettik offers to go do the swimming instead because he's an android and more resilient to cold than Raul is. But Raul insists that no, it has to be him since Bettik won't know where to plant the charges. He wasn't in the army like Raul was.
He's an android. I'm sure he can figure it out.
Raul's like, I can't tell you this because you have to place them in exactly the right place. It's like cutting a diamond. You have to be very precise. I'm like, why? You're just blowing open an ice wall. Why does it have to be so precise? But nope, apparently only option.
Has to be in a specific sort of place for a vein so it all blows open.
Maybe. That is not made clear. Anyway, they tie a rope around Raul so they can haul his corpse back when he inevitably dies.
Yeah, immediately upon hitting the water. Because he gasps in the water because it's so cold and he dies.
Yeah, like he literally says, like, my heart could stop. If that happens, pull me out and start me up again. We'll try again. This is a bad plan. This is a bad plan.
Do you have a better plan? Is there...
Yeah, let the android do it.
Yeah, that's a better plan. I agree.
Anyway, they tie the rope around Raul. He strips down and dives into the water and manages to navigate under the ice wall where there's a little gap of air to breathe. So, yay.
Handy.
Back with de Soya, he decides it's time to try to go to an Ouster world, since Aenea might be working with them.
That would have made more sense, but no, she's not.
No, she's not. They plan to zip into a planetary system, take a quick look around, and zip out. Usually the Ousters don't keep many ships around the planet after seizing it. They just leave a token guard and then head back into deep space where they live. So he's like, we can program the ship to go in, go out. It'll be, it's a much faster ship than anything else the Ousters or the Pax have. So worst case scenario, I'll program the ship to flee if it sees that it can't resurrect us safely. Like if there's not enough time for it to resurrect us, it'll flee. And in worst case scenario, it'll self-destruct before being captured.
Sure.
So that's the plan. So they look to see what the first Ouster-occupied Tethys world is on the ship's navigation plan. Guess what world that is, Danielle?
I don't know the answer to that. There's too many choices.
You do. There's only one, Danielle.
Hyperion.
No, it's not Ouster-occupied.
You tell me to pick Hyperion, and it's never the right answer except that one time.
What planet do you know has been Ouster-occupied?
I don't know, Sam.
There's only one we've mentioned this entire section.
I don't remember the name of it.
Hebron, Danielle. It's Hebron.
Oh, yeah.
Hebron.
I forgot.
Yeah. So he's like, well, we'll go to Hebron. That seems like a great guess, dude. Nailed it in one.
I forgot. I totally forgot. You're right. He's hot on their trail.
Somehow, he's just like, oh, we'll go to Hebron. Even though, I need to remind you, Hebron never had a Farcaster portal to begin with. So why is it suddenly known as like a Tethys planet, even though it was never part of the river Tethys to begin with, officially?
So he knows that they're traveling through the portals, right?
Yes.
So why, like you're saying, why would he choose a planet that doesn't have a portal, as far as I know?
Yes.
Yes, that does make very little sense.
Like, Tethys is not supposed to have a Farcaster officially. In any of the records of the Gemini, not supposed to have a Tethys portal. But somehow it's on their list of planets to have a Tethys portal. So he's like, well, that's not unfortunate. We'll go to that one.
So they know that it has a portal.
Somehow. And I'm calling nonsense.
Maybe they have top secret government documents to give them more information than whatever what's-his-face read.
Maybe they do have secret documents. If that's the case, they don't mention that for quite a long time, I suppose. So off they go. They get in the ship, they zoom off, and de Soya wakes up knowing something is wrong.
Sure, why not?
He's not on his ship. He wakes up in a bed in a very comfortable-looking room.
Is he going to turn to the Ousters side now?
No. He's visited by one Father Farrell. Farrell? I don't know.
One of the ghosts of Christmas yet to come.
No, he's like the captain of the Legionnaires of Christ, apparently.
Okay, sure.
So de Soya asks this person, like, hey, what happened to my men? What happened? And the guy says they're fine, except for Rettig. He's dead. He had a malfunction during his resurrection. He died the true death. He's gone forever.
Bummer.
Evidently, the Ousters had pursued the Raphael, the Archangel ship, when they arrived in Hebron, and so it fled back to Mare Infinitus, despite that not being where it should have fled to. Like, de Soya planned to go back to the nearest planet, which was not Mare Infinitus, but it went back there anyway.
Uh-huh. Was there a reason behind that, or just...
I don't know. We don't know yet.
Okay.
The ship had been intercepted by another pack ship in that area, and before they could be resurrected in Mare Infinitus, it was sent back to Pacem. What happened because de Soya had ticked off everyone on Mare Infinitus by, like, imprisoning the bishop in the monastery.
Yes.
And so they're like, let's get him out of here. Let's get him back to Pacem before everyone else, like, gets mad at him. And it was somewhere in those later translations that Rettig's resurrection failed and he died.
So sad for the guy I don't remember.
Yep, that's fine. He's then instructed that he'll be called for an interview later. And then I want to read for you a couple of paragraphs here from the book, Danielle.
An interview for the thing he doesn't remember?
An interview about, like, what happened, like an inquisitional interview, basically. Like,
Sure.
This guy represents Inquisition. So I want to read for you a couple of paragraphs here that sort of go into some of the stuff I'm skipping. This is, like, the best example of what I skip.
Okay.
So after the guy leaves, de Soya is lying there and he has all these thoughts, which he just tells us. So he knows the basic structure of the Vatican and its purpose. Beneath the Pope, there are two major administrative categories, the Roman Curia and the so-called sacred congregations. De Soya knows that the Curia is an awkward and labyrinthine administrative structure. Its modern form was set down by Sixtus V in AD 1588. The Curia includes the Secretariat of State, Cardinal Lord Duzimi's power base, where he serves as a sort of prime minister with the misleading title of Cardinal Secretary of the State. This Secretariat is a central part of what is often referred to as the Old Curia, used by popes since the 16th century. In addition, there is the New Curia, begun as the 16 lesser bodies created by the Second Vatican Council, still popularly known as Vatican II, or Vatican II, I don't know, which concluded in AD 1965. Those 16 bodies have grown to 31 intertwined entities under Pope Julius's 260-year reign. So there you go, Danielle.
Seems like the kind of thing that authors write down on, like, their notebooks so that they, like, have an idea of how the thing came to be or the character came to be, but then he felt the need to actually put it all into the book.
Yeah, no, it is. Hey, that is, and it goes on like that for like 3 more pages about the, like, just here's a power structure, my made-up power structure, and how it links back to the real, maybe real Vatican power structure. I don't know. And it just goes on and on and on like that. And that's why this book is so interminable, because it's like we have all these interesting plot points, but they're surrounded by this minutia that nobody cares about.
Somebody cares about it. This is probably somebody's favorite book.
Maybe Simmons cares about it.
I assume he definitely does. Maybe the editor cares about it.
Maybe.
Wasn't he best friends with his publisher or something? Didn't we find that out recently?
No, I thought that was corrected to something else.
No, it was that he wasn't friends with his publisher, or his editor. He was friends with his publisher or something.
Oh, okay, well, either way. Anyway, I'm just like, you heard that paragraph, and I'm sure your eyes glazed over by the third word.
Agent. That's what our listener said.
His agent is his best friend.
Yeah.
That's like less important down the pipeline. I think someone else in the pipeline would have done something.
Maybe his agent was very pushy.
Anyway, I wanted to give you that to show you what I'm sparing you from most of
I really
this
appreciate that. I didn't need to hear it. I believed you, but I appreciate you sharing.
I was going to make you aware one way or another, Danielle.
Glad I didn't have to read this book, I guess.
Back with Raul, he manages to plant the charges and they haul him back onto the raft. He quickly gets under a thermal blanket.
I'm glad they have all these things on board their tiny little raft.
They brought most of them from the ship.
Yeah, I figured.
Aenea and Bettik also crawl under the blanket to warm him up, and he recovers with no permanent issues, so yay.
That's so not physically possible.
Yeah, no permanent frostbite from his polar bear plunge, apparently. So they move the raft upriver, detonate the charges, the ice wall collapses, they're tossed around a bit, but then it's a success. They navigate through the cave and are out, free floating down the river. They round a bend and hit another dead end. Womp womp.
Oh no. Is he going to dive in again?
Well, they can contemplate it, but they're out of charges and it's like hundreds of kilometers thick. There's no way they can bust through this wall.
Bummer.
So they move the raft back upriver again, looking for any sort of option. And miraculously, they find a small like fissure or tunnel in the ice. Mm-hmm. They decide to unload the raft and like just hike through these tunnels and hope for the best.
Sure.
So they're hiking through the twisted tunnels for a while before Bettik says stop. He hears footsteps.
Uh-oh. There's some other thing in the giant cave system.
Yeah.
Is it one of those creatures?
The Arctic Wraiths?
Yeah. Do they walk on two legs?
I don't know. Maybe.
I want to know more.
Too bad. Back with de Soya, he's being interviewed by the Inquisition, who, quote, only speak in Latin, and the questions are polite, formal, and invariably in the third person, for reasons that only serve to make it more hard to read the interview.
Classic.
This is just like Uman all over again.
I was just thinking that.
So I'm going to skip it because they're basically just recapping the last few pages, like, tell us what you did. I went to this place. Tell us what you did. I went to that place. The only interesting part is how de Soya keeps talking about how his hunches, he's like, I found my hunches, and they lead back to the Ousters. Like how he decided to head to Hebron on a hunch because of the Ouster connection, given how the ship, the hawking mat, the name Endymion, and everything is all related to the Cantos, and so therefore Ousters are involved somehow.
I mean, it's interesting that he's having hunches about Ousters when they don't seem to be involved, but it's still getting him to the right place.
Yeah, it's wild. So that's that chapter. On to the next one, where, again, I want to read for you the opening paragraph of this chapter to give you a sense of how this thing does story, how this book does story. Mm-hmm. So, quote, we spent 3 weeks with the Chichatuk on the frozen world of Sol Draconi's Septum. And in that time, we rested, recovered, wandered the frozen tunnels of their frozen atmosphere with them, learned a few words and phrases of their difficult language, visited Father Glaucus in the embedded city, stalked and were stalked by Arctic wraiths, and made that final terrible trek downriver. But I'm getting ahead of myself.
He's trying to pull you in.
But you could just start by telling us, like, hey, there are footsteps, and they're waiting for, like, in trepidation, the footstep. But no, it's all passive voice. So, like, takes all the tension out of that moment.
It's true. It's a weird place to tell you exactly what happened.
Right. It's like, oh, I hear footsteps in the darkness. So, we spent 3 weeks with these guys. They're cool dudes. Don't worry about it. No problem. It's not at all something to be worried about. I'm just like, dude, why? You had good tension. Use it.
It's more fun if he doesn't. He does the unexpected. You gotta love that.
I mean, I appreciate he seems to make the choice I would never make every time. And I can't say he's wrong, because what do I know? But it's just like so weird.
It's certainly not normal storytelling.
So anyway, they're in the tunnel, and a band of humans dressed in wraith furs come across them. And after a brief standoff, they all seem peaceful and cool with each other.
So the wraiths have fur?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, I guess so.
I don't know why I just assumed the wraiths were kind of like some kind of water creature.
Yeah, I had the same idea. I don't think so. I had like a manta ray kind of thing pictured in my head.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah.
That's so weird.
I don't think so. I think that makes sense when I hear the word wraith, and I think of like that. But
that's so funny.
But no, I guess they're like more like the ice, like abominable snow creatures or something with giant teeth and claws.
That is super not at all what I was thinking. I absolutely thought they were like shadowy figures underneath the water and ice.
Nope, they live on the surface apparently.
We must be writing the same book in our head, Sam.
Well, I don't know if that's us, Danielle, or if it's like Simmons, who's the weird one out here.
It's kind of weird that we both were like, manta rays.
Yeah. I don't know. That just seems like a wraith to me. I don't think of like abominable snow people as like wraith-like.
No, not at all.
All right. Well, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe we don't actually get to see them in this part. So maybe they're still like manta rays that like sled around on their bellies on the surface. That'd be pretty cool.
With fur.
Yeah, with fur. I mean, if they're like otters, you know?
Yeah, just giant scary otters.
Yeah, there you go. Giant scary otters, manta ray shaped.
That
Tell
would
me
be
that would be
horrifying.
amazing.
I don't want to run into that. It's true.
Yeah. So they can't understand each other because these people don't speak the standard galactic English that everyone else in the universe speaks, which is what they call it. It's like something like standard English or something. I don't know what it's definitely English of some kind. So that tells you a lot about the politics here.
Do the wraiths speak English? Maybe that's been their problem all along.
They can't speak to the wraiths. Great.
They just can't speak to each other. They're probably both peace-loving.
But Raul and Aenea managed to communicate with them using the universal language of pantomime.
Sure. I believe it.
So the Chitatuk, I think is how you say it. Chitatuk. It's the best I can do. I apologize. They're a generous people, and they don't kill other humans. Only wraiths, from which they get everything. Their food, their clothing, materials for building, everything comes from the wraiths. So there's literally nothing else on this planet except for frozen atmosphere and wraiths.
That's fair, I suppose.
And the hunting bands always travel with a prime number of people for reasons that are unclear.
For math reasons.
Superstition reasons. And there are 23 of them in this party, I guess.
Sure. Why not?
Raul introduces most of them to us, the audience.
How do they explain that in pantomime?
This is more Raul explaining to us, like we learn, like in retrospect.
So does he learn their language enough to know what the word for
I don't
prime
know, Danielle,
numbers
maybe.
is?
It just seems like Raul is both an omniscient narrator and also in the moment, and is very jarring.
I've learned several languages, and I don't know prime numbers, like the phrase prime numbers in any of those languages but English, because it's never come up in conversation.
Well, it's not a part of their, like, a religion or superstitions, Danielle.
Sure. I just don't know how you'd explain that with pantomime, is what I'm saying.
I don't know, Danielle.
Let alone a basic understanding of the language.
But it comes up several times.
Sure. Okay. Sorry. I get stuck on weird things.
Yeah, well, he goes on to introduce some of the other members of the tribe. There's your standard sort of, like, leader. You have your tribe leader of this particular hunting band. You have his second in command. And you have the angry one who doesn't like them and wants to kill them.
Sure. Classic.
Always, yeah.
I don't trust these strangers.
Yeah, exactly. They also carry a mysterious brazier of embers that never go out, which they use to keep warm, but not to cook their food because they eat all their meat raw.
For reasons.
Yep.
And frozen, I imagine, since it's so cold.
So Aenea convinces them via pantomime to return to the raft with the rest of the group, which excites the Chitatic since they'd never seen like raw materials like wood before.
I mean, that would be kind of exciting, I guess. Small things in life.
Yeah. So Aenea says, they need, like, again, pantomime them that they need to float down the river to an arch. And they seem to understand that. And they're like, okay, cool. And they say, come with us. And they turn and lead Aenea and the others back into the tunnels. Back with de Soya, I'm going to skip this chapter, just straight up, because it's literally just dozens of pages of de Soya being like led through the Vatican and admiring all the art and architecture and being like told the history of all the art and architecture in the Vatican.
Thanks for sharing.
But I will share the part where he finally gets to Cardinal Lorduzimi, who assures him that he's cleared of any wrongdoing by the Inquisition.
Sounds like a Star Wars name.
Yeah, it really is. But I think it might be like a real like reference to somebody. I don't know. And he's going to be put back on his mission to find the girl. Lorduzimi expresses sadness at Rettik's death, but says he has suggestions of someone who could fill his place. How convenient.
Mysterious. Suspicious.
De Soya is not suspicious. That's me.
I would be suspicious.
Yep, de Soya isn't. Not yet, anyway.
Man, where are his hunches when he needs them?
Right. Then Lorduzimi says, do you know why I was fined to detain that young female? And de Soya says, basically, isn't she like a threat to the church and the Pax? And Lorduzimi replies, but we did not tell you how she was a threat. Can you guess how she's the threat, Danielle?
She can build buildings.
Maybe. We don't get to know because the chapter ends there before we can explain.
Because she knows math.
Does she? We're not sure about that.
She's going to learn math with the architect. We don't want girls learning things. It's dangerous.
I mean, those could all be valid reasons that they think she will destroy them. We don't get to know. We're just, the chapter's like, let me tell you this secret. Chapter ends. It's like, I hate that.
Classic writing.
Sure, classic.
It's fine because you're going to have a chapter soon that'll explain the whole thing, and then you're like, well, let me back up and tell you in more detail.
I would wager we skip to the next chapter is de Soya and the rest like back in space doing their thing. It's like, well, he told me the secret, and then we left. Yep. And we don't know what it is.
Ever.
Possibly. With this book, who knows? So back with Raul, they spent 3 days hiking to see Father Glaucus, which, quote, would have been quite forgettable if the Wraith had not taken one of our party.
But they didn't see the wraith?
No. So basically, as exciting as that sounds, it's not exciting when it happened. Basically, all that happens is there's a big rumble, something crashes through the ice, and one of the party disappears in a fountain of blood as like nothing but a little tunnel is left behind where the wraith came through.
That doesn't disabuse me of the notion that it's a giant furry
it very well
seal manta ray.
I believe it, Danielle. I would believe it. But I'm just like so annoyed with like, hey, this is a very boring part. Would have been boring except for the exciting thing that happened. We're talking to describe in a boring way. Like, why? Why just describe the exciting? Just tell us what happens. You don't have to like preface everything that happens to your story with telling us how like not exciting it is.
I like how you're getting more and more angry as you're recapping this to me about how he writes.
I just like, I want to read and enjoy this book, but it's like the book is trying to tell me how unenjoyable it is while I'm reading it. In the beginning, it was fine, but it's getting like, it doesn't ever change. Like, we're not actually getting to any like just straight up storytelling. It's all like told, like again, like a history textbook, which I suppose fits with the entire like framing device of him writing this all in his little, box.
There you go. See, there was a reason behind his method behind his madness, as they say.
Yeah, but I don't know if I like it.
Well, it wasn't written specifically for you, Sam. Jeez.
But it wasn't?
Shockingly, I don't think he wrote these books thinking we were going to be doing these on our podcast.
I thought all books were written just for me, Danielle, and only for me.
Yes, that's the case.
Anyway, they continue until they find a skyscraper buried in the ice. And they enter through a window on the 58th floor because everything else is covered in ice, which is legitimately pretty cool. And this is what I find frustrating because this is really cool stuff going on in this book. It's buried underneath all like the other stuff.
Mm-hmm. Ice skyscraper. Ice scraper.
Ice scraper?
Skyscraper.
Ice maker.
It's a skyscraper. Skyscraper.
A skyscraper. Okay, skyscraper. I think we nailed it, Danielle. So, Father Glaucus appears from within. He's blind and wearing the collar and crucifix of a priest, but he doesn't seem to be of the pack.
So he's crucifix, let's be clear, not a cruciform.
Yes,
as far as
like
we know.
Yes. It looks like a necklace, not a pyrosite.
Not a starfish.
So he speaks to Raul in English. Thou art the man, he says. And Raul says...
He's like, yeah, I am.
You're the man now, dog. No. And Raul says, it took me a while, years, to put that comment in the proper perspective. We don't get that perspective, Danielle. This story's all like, seriously, guys, trust me. All this stuff, super important. And it will be important later. But we're not going to tell you how. Just believe me. So it's like telling you, trying to like highlight all the little clues, but not letting you uncover them for yourself.
Yeah.
Anyway, they plan to stay with Glaucus for a few days while the rest of the hunting party goes and does its thing, presumably to like rebuild their numbers with their prime again or something.
Yeah, you can't have non-prime numbers.
Apparently not. They had learned from the hunting band that the trip to the next Farcaster would involve a perilous trek across the surface through an area with many Arctic wraiths. So, danger, danger. When finally alone with Glaucus laments he never thought he'd see a human child again. Because apparently the Chitatuk all keep their children in the relatively safer, warmer regions in the south of the planet, where the hunting bands go north to hunt the juvenile Arctic wraiths for the food and everything to bring back down south.
Sure.
Glaucus says, it's tropical there. The ice is only 30 or 40 meters thick, and the atmosphere almost breathable. Which, like, how are they alive here if in the temperate south, the atmosphere is almost breathable, and in the more hostile north, how are they breathing? What are they breathing? How are they still alive? This planet makes no sense.
And it might make sense for the locals to be able to breathe it, like they've somehow over time developed some kind of ability or whatever.
Yeah, sure.
But like, it doesn't make any sense that our characters would be able to survive there.
They should have been dead from the first few seconds they entered that portal.
Yeah. Anyway,
Glaucus then leads them to their rooms, and that he's prepared for them since they're the first guests he's had in 50 years. And that's where we're going to leave it for this time, Danielle.
Oof.
That exciting section.
I mean, all of those things are interesting things. It just sounds like they're wrapped up in a lot of unnecessary extra words, let's say. And then told kind of passively.
Yeah, it's very interesting how, like, again, I feel, and I could be wrong, this feels like more an excuse for Simmons to explore all his, like, personal interests.
Mm-hmm.
He sounds like a guy who, like, at a party who, like, traps you and starts talking about his favorite band or something. Like, oh, this is really cool. I'm telling the whole history of this band. It's, like, kind of endearing in a way. Like, oh, that's kind of nice how much he cares about this. Even though you're like, I really got to get out of here and want to talk to somebody else.
I appreciate your enthusiasm, but I don't want to hear about it.
Yeah. It was like a dad who's like really into model trains, who just got into model trains or whatever, like telling you all the different, like, you have your O's and your like double O gauge. You're like, okay, cool. I'm glad you're so excited about model trains. But like, man, the passive voice stuff is probably the stuff that's the hardest, because Raul section are the ones that are most passive, while all of the de Soya's parts are told more straightforwardly, like a standard narrative. And that's probably why I like de Soya the most.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, it sounds like, I imagine it was partly because he knew that he was writing like from the future about the past.
Right. I get it.
But also narratively, it's hard to read.
I mean, I don't know why you couldn't just have Raul writing from the future in a contemporaneous way. Like he's writing it like when people write their biographies.
Right. Like a dissolve and then you're in the present, but it's really the past.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly right. So just very interesting choices all around. I can't wait to see where it ends up for the ultimate, where our final part ends up.
Yeah.
Because I have no idea how this is going to end anything other than just like,
I think a big question is, does he even end up in the box at the end of Endymion? Maybe he doesn't end up in the box until the next book.
No, I guarantee he doesn't end up in the end of the box until somewhere in the next book, I'm pretty sure.
So he's just still like telling the story until he gets to the box.
Yeah, we'll see, Danielle. In the next part, I honestly don't remember where this ends. I'm excited for it to be just the most anticlimactic ending ever.
If it doesn't end with Stingray Race, do we even want to know?
I kind of want to end with another song, like the end of Hyperion, the first book, when they sang Off to See the Wizard.
They could be stuck in an ice tunnel singing around
That'd
a campfire.
Be so good. If they started singing more Wizard of Oz songs, I'd be delighted.
I would not be.
I know. That's why it would delight me, Danielle.
We do enjoy messing with each other with media.
Half the fun, Danielle, is making another person upset about how weird this thing is and sharing your anger.
Well, I am mad about it. I'm less mad about this section, though, because at least there was like several plot points that happened.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear you summarize it next time.
I won't remember it. It'll be fine. Every time I get a really good one where I'm like, I remember everything, the next time it's like, I don't know.
You can't have two in a row. That's the law.
It is a law. It's only happened like once, I think, where I got two in a row.
That's a real bummer. Well, anyway, thank you all for listening. If you want...
Such a pregnant pause.
I thought you might have something to say, Danielle. I guess I was wrong.
Yes, we appreciate you listening to Sam's
Never mind.
story.
I'm going to start this over. This is our outro now, I guess.
Keep it.
So that's all for this time. If you want to suggest to me why, like, they can survive on Sol Draconi Septum without dying immediately, what I'm getting wrong about this planet's ecology, please write it and tell me. I don't understand how it works at all. I think they should be dead.
One of our listeners has to know the answer to this. Please write in
must be.
Via email, because that's the one Sam checks the most regularly, and let him know.
Yeah, you can reach us at bookretorts.com.
You can also tweet, Instagram, or Facebook us at bookretorts. You can also send me that information on our socials. I tend to run those more than Sam does.
Look, it's fine. Either way, it's going to get to us. It doesn't matter the details.
It's true. I'll just screenshot it and send it to Sam.
Also, if you want to help us fund our expedition to find Arctic wraiths that are like otter creatures.
That are not just otters.
Like giant otter manta ray things.
Yeah, they need to be clear. That are furry.
We want to go down to the Antarctic and look for those. You can do so at patreon.com/bookretorts.
Yeah, we need to get some money together so that we can go on our trip.
Yeah, make an expedition happen.
Yeah, make it happen.
Well, until next time, be better than Raul at making decisions.
That's a low bar. I'm assuming all of our listeners are smarter than him.
I'm just really hoping. Well, until then, bye.
Bye. Take care, everybody. I'm trying to get him to watch this Chinese drama.
Why?
Because he'd like it. He would probably get it. He would really enjoy the scenery and It's a big war saga and has magic in it. It's right up his alley.
Is this the one with the weird, like, hand?
The weird hand?
The hand, like, disembodied hand or something?
I mean, it does have a disembodied hand in it, but I don't know if that's the one I've told you about.
Either that or it's a recurring trope because you told me about that one of those before.
I don't know why I would tell you about that because that's not like part of the plot that I would ever tell anybody. It does not matter.
Okay.
It seems weird that that's like what you would remember if I had told you the plot of that.
Well, you know, Danielle, who can say?
But it does have weirdly, it does have a disembodied hand in it.